It is the fourth Sunday of Advent. And my guess is that many of you have been busy. Busy working on those Christmas cards, that may be Christmas cards, or maybe closer to New Year's, or sometime before Valentine's Day. Some of you have been busy baking, making cookies and goodies, perhaps thinking or planning about the wonderful feast that you will have on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Perhaps some of you have been busy lining up your travel arrangements to go home or to a place with your friends or family to celebrate this incredible season. As we come to this fourth Sunday of Advent, I am mindful of the beginning of a line from the Indigo Girls song that says, "There was a table set for 6, and 5 were there. I stood outside the window, looking at that empty chair." And for a moment, I would invite you into that place, both with regard to the journey that we are embarking on in the midst of this busy season, but also with regard to this story, this Christmas story that is unfolding before our eyes. Now, this empty chair image within the house, imagine standing at the window and looking in. This 5 people who are gathered. What have they brought to that table? Perhaps they have shared in the cooking of the meal. Perhaps there is a deep-seated love for one another. But perhaps there's the crazy aunt or uncle who seems to take over the conversation and get themselves into trouble with saying things that perhaps aren't as polite or maybe just a little bit off the wall. Maybe there is a parent who has been a little bit overbearing in terms of making sure that the food is done just right and the table is set just perfectly and has shooed everyone out of the kitchen to make sure that they are going to have the perfect Christmas. Done with love, of course. Perhaps there is that sibling, perhaps the overbearing older sibling who has always known best, and with whom you are struggling to get along. Or perhaps there's that younger sibling, that one who has always gone off and done the crazy things and seems to show up at holidays, maybe needing a little bit of money or perhaps a little bit of moral support to get on to the new year. You see, when we gather and we look inside that window at the people that are gathered, we tend to see kind of a messy sort of group. And oftentimes we try to romanticize Christmas because we all want to have this wonderful season. But at its heart, there are family dynamics and past stories, perhaps past baggage or struggles, that all seem to show up and make their way to the table. And so we stand there, looking in, wondering, is there a place set for me? And if so, how does it look? How do I live into the story that is before us? Now, messiness at Christmas is nothing new. As we go back to this first story, we hear plenty of messiness, right? There is this young woman, Mary, who all of a sudden is told that she is going to have a child. Now, as a young teenager, imagine the horror, or at least shock, on her face. And oftentimes we read this passage, as I did today, to say, well, here I am, Lord. What if it was really more of a question? Here I am, Lord? Really? Struggling, thinking, trying to figure out what is her place in this story. this narrative. And of course, we have a bewildered father who is standing there on the sidelines, wondering what is going to happen with his role as this little one shows up on the scene. And then we have these cousins who are off in the distance, Elizabeth and Zechariah. They've been struggling. Their story, their narrative is one of sadness, or it has been. Even though Zechariah is faithful as a temple priest and caring for the people, they've wanted a child and have not had a child. So that is the story until now, when there is this good news about them also having a little one, close to the same time as Jesus. So the story unfolds, and we look at what is there for us, this messiness that unfolds, with messengers, unwed mother, bewildered prospective father, older relatives holding a dream in tension with what has been their reality, and this small town where I'm sure gossip was running rampant.